Hello, everyone. My name is Justin Carter. I am hosting the Rural Report today for the Center for Rural Affairs. I'm just going to give it a couple minutes here, let folks filter in. If you're joining us today, feel free to throw your name in the chat. Let us know who you are, where you're from, and yeah, thanks for being here. All right, I am going to go ahead and get started here. My name is Justin Carter. I am a project associate with the Center for Rural Affairs. I work on the center's farm and community team, so I do a lot of work with beginning farmers and landowners in the state of Nebraska. I'm also the coordinator of the Nebraska Food Council, and I am the point person on the Center for Rural Affairs Farm to School program. So first off, if you don't know a lot about the Center for Rural Affairs, we were founded in 1973, and our mission is to build strong and vibrant rural communities. We do this through small business lending, advocating for rural policy, and doing grassroots work around small town food and agriculture. So what is the Farm to School program in Nebraska? Well, it's a movement that's been catching on in our local school districts for quite some time. And the National Farm to School Network defines farm to school as a connection communities have with fresh, healthy food and local food producers by changing food purchasing and education practices in early care and education sites. So in Nebraska, we mainly work with K through 12 schools around farm to school. And I would say, two of the big goals around farm to school are improving our education around agriculture and growing our food, and also procuring local healthy foods for the school cafeteria. And going into this, there's a lot of reasons for procuring these healthy foods for the school cafeteria. It brings in a nutritious, good meal for our students, teaches them a little bit about where their food comes from, and it can also form good, strong community partnerships with local farmers and their school districts. And it's important to note that when schools are procuring local foods, where it doesn't have to be just produce, fruits, and vegetables. It can be a number of things. We have some schools throughout the state who are working on procuring local beef. For instance, Nebraska is a big beef producing state, and schools, for instance, like Thayer Central down in Hebron, Nebraska, have been able to incorporate a lot of beef in their school and hamburger that's come directly from livestock producers and processors in their area. And then turning over to the education side of things, we have a lot of great examples of educational programs throughout the state. We have some of them that are led by the more traditional programs that we're really familiar with, like Nebraska FFA or 4-H. Education can be pretty simple. It can be centered around a school garden or a school greenhouse. We have some schools, for instance, Litchfield Public Schools or East Butler in Brainerd, Nebraska, that have great greenhouse programs. And you can incorporate a lot of things into local food education. For instance, up in Macy, Nebraska, Omaha Nation Public Schools has been able to incorporate a lot of their cultural and Native American traditions into their outdoor education programs, such as growing traditional Native American corn varieties and things like that. So there's just a lot of opportunity around educating students about our traditions, our cultures, and just where their food comes from in general, which unfortunately can often be missing in our public schools. So today I want to tell you a few things about how you can get involved in the farm to school movement in Nebraska and some programs that we have at the Center for Rural Affairs. So the Center for Rural Affairs received a USDA farm to school grant in 2019, and we are using that grant for our greenhouse to cafeteria program. So one thing that we found at the center is that greenhouse education is pretty fundamental to a lot of rural schools in Nebraska. A lot of schools have greenhouses that have been used in the past for different farming methods, different educational methods. But some of them have been maybe falling in ill repair, or they haven't been used in a while, or maybe they're being used to grow flowers or different products like that. So we saw the need for getting food production going in greenhouses and helping to revamp some rural greenhouses. So to do this, we're working with 10 rural schools across the state, where we're working with schools as far west as Minnetonka and as far east as North Bend Central. And we're working with them to revamp their greenhouses and provide them some technical assistance to get food production going in their school greenhouses. Some other things that we're doing on a whole state level around greenhouse to cafeteria is we're helping to form a peer network for greenhouse teachers in the state, so they can bounce ideas off of each other, learn about greenhouse programs and how they're working, what are the successes and challenges that teachers are facing. And we're also we're partnered up with Nebraska FFA and UNL Extension on this project. And with FFA, we're working to create a greenhouse awards program. So we can potentially give out an FFA award for an outstanding greenhouse in the state of Nebraska. So in addition to our greenhouse to cafeteria program, there's a number of programs in the state of Nebraska that are put on by the Department of Education that can get people involved in the farm to school movement. For instance, there's Nebraska Thursdays, which Nebraska Thursdays is when a school selects the first Thursday of each month to showcase and serve a local food. And this has been a really successful program. There's a lot of schools around the state who are enrolled in it. There's also Harvest of the Month, which showcases one specific type of vegetable for each month of the year for a school to serve and educate students on. And then one thing we have, especially for October, so October is a big month in the Farm to School program. October is actually Farm to School month. So it's a month where we really encourage our local school districts to kick off their farm to school activities, to encourage students and teachers and administration to get involved in farm to school. And the big celebration that we have coming up in October is the Mountain Plains Crunch Off. This takes place on October 22nd. And the Mountain Plains Crunch Off is a contest between states in our region to see how many students we can get to crunch in to local foods. So crunching into local foods, the most popular food by far has been apples. It's the fall, there's a lot of apples around. So schools, they get a bunch of local apples, and then they showcase the students, crunching in to local apples. So you could also use other foods such as carrots, celery, anything that has a good crunch to it. But it's a big contest. Last year we had quite a few schools participate, and we actually won. We beat out quite a few states in our region, states like Colorado, Kansas, the Dakotas, Missouri. So it was pretty cool to see Nebraska take that title, and I know we're looking to repeat. Now, of course, all these programs, the crunch off, everything is kind of overshadowed by the pandemic right now, and we realize that we have some schools that are doing remote learning, or some schools that potentially might have to move into remote learning. So it's a little harder for these schools to get local foods into the classrooms for these events. And that's why for the Crunch Off, I just want to remind folks that it isn't just a school district that has to participate. You can also participate as an organization if you're with a nonprofit or something like that, and just individuals can sign up and participate too, and crunch into local foods at home. And to register for the Crunch Off, you'll need to get on the Department of Education website, and I believe we have that link in the chat. So just check that out. There's also other resources about things that you can do on the day of the Crunch Off on that site, and there's also information on the Department of Education site around Nebraska Thursdays and Harvest of the Month. If you need help procuring local foods for these events or for farm to school in general, I'd encourage you to take a look at a few resources that we have in the state of Nebraska. Buy Fresh, Buy Local, which is directed through University of Nebraska Extension. We should have that in the chat as well. But that is a great program that can give you some direction on farmers around the state to procure local vegetables and other products through. We also have a new program that was just launched by Nebraska Extension called Nebraska Market Maker, and we'll put that link in the chat as well, so you can check that out. That also provides you a geographic list of producers you can procure for. And if you're a little lost and you don't know exactly where to get local products, feel free to reach out to the Center for Rural Affairs too. I'm always willing to help. Okay, well, I think that's what we have for Farm to School today. I thank you all so much for being here. We're very excited about the Farm to School program in our state. The network is definitely growing. We have a number of partners: the Center for Rural Affairs, University of Nebraska Extension, the Nebraska Food Council. There are a lot of people talking about this program around the state of Nebraska, and we are very excited to see it grow. So thank you so much. Take care and stay safe out there. Bye.